Hey there, ladies, gents, and my miscellaneous kobolds. Welcome back to Not to Be Racist. It's your favorite geeky degenerate here, Unfortunate Puppy, to tell you about some more fantasy racism. Today's race is the Legolas rejects that are Dungeons & Dragons Elves. What if I told you that there exists a race that is born with a natural affinity for magic, that's light on their feet, practically immortal, and super classy? Sounds like it can make a fun and interesting character, right? Well, fortunately for you players, that's what we call a high elf. Unfortunately for all you dungeon masters, none of your players will ever use these traits and just make the blandest edgelords possible. But I'm getting ahead of myself. High elves in D&D come in many varieties depending on your setting, and despite this, almost all high elves are practically the same race with only very slight differences that only someone super into the Forgotten Realms lore would even know about. Now, high elves are pretty smart, and pretty much dumb high elves just shouldn't exist. And it's because of this keen intellect that high elves sort of become the party's de facto walking encyclopedia. You'd think for a super intelligent race that they'd be happy to share their knowledge with other races or use their superior knowledge to help people of the world, especially since most elves typically lean to the good alignments. Well, you'd be wrong, because all elves are played in the exact same way. All races are inferior to me, which, to be fair, isn't necessarily the player's fault. In almost every D&D setting, and in Pathfinder core rulebooks, they are described as such. And it's just a shame that this race that could make the best spellcaster in the entire game instead have essentially no motivation to ever really use most of their spells. Sure, they might use it to make an obstacle easier to overcome for themselves, but a majority of spells in their spell list is just lost to them because they're intended to make things easier for the non-spellcasters or as a general utility for the party or NPCs. I mean, one of the coolest things about magic is the ability to flaunt it about, and they don't even do that. There isn't much to say about the Wood Elves, really. They exist. They like trees. They make good rangers and druids sometimes. I don't know. Now, remember when I said earlier that elves typically lend to the good alignments? Well, forget that. Dark elves or drow are evil, no way around it. They're typically intended to be used as enemies for the party to face and rarely an actual party member. Now, their lore is pretty much the same across all settings, banished from the surface world into the Underdark or similar locations, built some kind of civilization down there, and typically they worship dark gods. So it's pretty much an edgier version of Undertale. Now, it may sound like I dislike the drow, but really I love them. I love them as enemies. I, however, don't like them as party members, not because they're boring, far from it in fact, but instead because if they are evil, as is their nature, they will constantly be butting head with good party members, and that's a majority of most party members. And if they aren't evil, every NPC should still treat them as if they are evil or a monster and immediately dislike them if they don't try to kill the drow on sight. Pretty much if you're a GM and one of your players is a drow, every single non-evil NPC should be trying to kill or get it far, far away from this darkie. And if they aren't, there's a big problem with the way you're GMing these games. Now, here's one of the best reasons to play an elf, is their stats. These guys are packing a nice +2 to dexterity, making them a pretty good candidate for some of the less punchy and less tanky classes. But I do recommend if you intend to play, say, a rogue, check some of the other races, as the dexterity boost on the elves is nice, but better done on other races like halflings, who are stealthy and charismatic by nature. In addition, all elves come standard with a proficiency in perception and dark vision. but this pales in comparison to their Fey ancestry trait. The elves have an advantage on saving throws from being charmed, and in addition, magic simply can't put them to sleep. This can easily make elves a powerful weapon against any enemy spellcasters because sleep spells are honestly more common than you'd think they are. Now, the high elves on top of base elf traits also get a +1 to intelligence, 1 extra language of their choice, and a free cantrip. Yes, you heard me. A free cantrip just for being a gold-skinned dagger ear. They get a +1 to wisdom. They walk a bit faster, and they can hide well in light foliage or kind of bad weather. That's kind of cool. I mean, I guess. Now, I'm going to be honest, Dark Elves are kind of OP. They get a +1 to Charisma, which makes no sense, seeing as everyone hates them. They have double the range on their Dark Vision, and you just get some really cool spells in some of the lower levels. Now I'm going to be honest. Remember when I said Dark Elves were OP? I was lying. They are only OP in caves. These guys get a disadvantage on perception when in sunlight or looking at stuff in sunlight. So no midday berry searching for these guys or whatever else you use perception for. All in all, the elves can be an amazing race if played correctly by an experienced player who is willing to go beyond just the Tolkien variant of elves and willing to try and create something interesting with these characters. But that being said, I'd sooner allow someone to play a Clockwork Terrask than a lawful good Dark Elf, so maybe I'm the problem. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and check out our Facebook, Twitter, and other miscellaneous stuff in the description below. Thanks for watching.